me. Yep. The recording of this council meeting will be available to the public on council's website for the minimum period of 6 months. In accordance with council policy, I will now ask council staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, actually.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the South East Nation, the Malacadee people of the Yuan River, and the Lilaquani people of the far south. We recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We have in attendance tonight, we have Acting Deputy Mayor Clark, we have Councillor Newell, we have Councillor Lovell, we have Councillor O'May and we have Councillor Prince. Would you like to introduce your staff?
Yes, thanks, Acting Mayor. We've got the Director of People and Organisational Services, David Spinks, the Director of Infrastructure, Climate and Environmental Services, Lockie Krantz, Acting Director, Governance, Strategy and Sustainable Development, Michelle Gledhill, the ITC Officer, Michael Glazer, Executive Assistant, Sandy Rustell, and Manager, Development Services, Michael Bartlett.
Thank you. We have no apologies. Leave of absence? Absent. Is there any councillors that have a declaration of interest? Yes, Councillor Prince, can you read that out for me, please?
Yes, Mayor, I have a declaration of interest with agenda number item 10.010/22, report under section 35F, and the details are around my employer making a representation.
Thank you very much.
I also have a declaration.
Yes, go for it. Yep.
So mine's under agenda item 19.020/22 and 9.015/22, both relating to the General Manager performance and recruitment process.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I potentially might have one, but I'm not quite sure.
It's entirely
Yeah.
up to you.
Should I just fill one in?
I think you do, Mark,
Yep.
yes.
Yep. So if you'd like to read out the item number that you're have your can you help him with that, please, Councillor Prince? Yep. Okay, you don't. It can just if you just read it out now, I can take it in a moment. Councillor O'May. Yep. What item number is it?
I'm not sure. I've just objected to the process, and the item number's not specifically listed.
Yep, that's all right. It is item number 1.010/20, isn't it?
10.010.
Yeah, 10.010/22, sorry.
Yep.
All right. We might move on. We've got to wait.
You've got yours to note as well. You need to note yours.
Ah, yes, yep. Okay, and mine is a standing item, 19.017/22. I have that in every council meeting. I've declared it. Are you right, Councillor O'May? You right? Okay. Confirmation of minutes, 4.009/22. Do I have a councillor to move the motion that the minutes are confirmed for the ordinary meeting of council Wednesday the 31st of August 2022 as circulated be confirmed? Yes, Councillor Clark and seconded Councillor O'Neill. Does any councillor wish to make any changes? No? So, all those in favour? That's all present? The motion is carried. 5, legislative items. General Manager, are there any legislative items?
No, Acting Mayor.
Any urgent matters?
No, Acting Mayor.
Announcement. Do any councillors have any announcements? Yeah, I'll let you
Yes,
go.
I do.
Yep.
Acting Mayor. So I'm just confirming that agenda item 17.01422, titled Request for Grant or Benefit, has been withdrawn. The report was not included in the documentation, was placed in the agenda by error.
Thank you. I have a couple of announcements. I've been asked to let everybody know that there's an open day at Maxima over here in the old ANZ building on Thursday the 6th from 12 to 2:30. And they're holding that in Mental Health Week. So pop in and have a look at that. I also closed the Flow exhibition today over at the Hub. And yeah, that's been tremendous with the gear's on its way back from Launceston as we speak. And I also went to Sacred Heart this morning and listened to a young lady called Freya. And we talk about that the youth don't have a platform. Well, at Sacred Heart today, she stood up, had her rescue greyhound with her, and told everybody, along with the slideshow, why there should not be greyhound racing. Now, for a young girl in grade 6, I thought she was, it was very brave and it was very factual. So she done a good job. So I think that we need to know that our kids are in good hands. So. Okay, public participation. Public question time. Answers to previous questions taken on notice. There were 4 questions taken on notice from the 31st of August and from Mr Mark Jessup and Mr Amy Robinson regarding property zoning, Ms Carol Murphy regarding the Jobs Hub, and Ms Amy Robinson regarding Taswater Works at Shipwrights Point. The answers to those can be found on the website and will be included in the minutes. That's all, isn't it? I think. Oh, here we go. 8.1. Okay, 8.1.2, questions on notice. There is nil. 8.1.3, questions without notice via email. There were 4 questions received and the summary is as follows. Ms Jenny Chambers-Smith regarding planning matters. Mr Peter Graham regarding Taswater Works at Shipwrights Point. Ms Christy Lewis regarding Taswater Works at Shipwrights Point. And Mr Caleb Elcock regarding the planning matters. And Ms Amy Robinson regarding TPC hearing. As previously mentioned, these questions and responses can be found on the website and will be included in the minutes. Okay, from the gallery. If you have a question, as the chair, I'll ask you to come forward to the microphone and identify yourself by name and area where you live. To make things fair and equitable, we will limit to 2 questions per person. If you can please ask your question, then we'll go to the others in the gallery before returning for their second question if time permits. We normally allocate 15 minutes for question time. All questions asked must be directed to me as the chairperson. I will answer the question or refer the question to another councillor or the General Manager. Every attempt will be made to provide an answer to your question. Debate on questions cannot be entered into. The Council cannot make decisions on issues that arise in public question time. A reminder from last month to directly ask your question, please. If we require background information, we will ask you for it. This will enable as many people as possible to ask questions in the allocated time. Is there anyone who would like to come forward and ask a question? Yes, if you'd like to come forward. Kathy, yep, thank you. State your name and where you're from, please.
Hi, it's Kathy Temby from Lucaston, and mine is with regards to the process, just to get some clarification of the process of the local provision schedule and the planning scheme process. So the planning scheme should reflect communities' aspirations in line with sustainable development objectives. There should be a strong link between the planning scheme and the Council's various strategic planning documents. It is through consultation with the associated planning processes that community aspirations and objectives can be garnered to inform the local provision schedule. Yep. I won't go on, but the question is with regards to, what I actually asked the question, and that's from the Department of Premier and Cabinet.
Yep, thank you.
So the first question is, this is all part of the process. When were we notified about the interim planning scheme and in what form? I asked this question of Council some time ago and I have not received an answer. Okay. So we don't have any evidence that we've actually been informed of the interim planning scheme, which is what they're basing the current zoning on.
Thank you.
And also that the land use strategy is not current. So you're actually basing your current zoning on something which is not existing. We're about to do a land use strategy, but we haven't got a basis of a land use strategy. Our Huon Valley land use strategy hasn't been used as the basis for the local provision schedule. Yep. And the same part of that same question, as far as due process is concerned, is that $230,000 was taken out of strategic land use planning at the June meeting. Yep. Will this impact on our ability to consult with the community? Because as I've said, community aspirations and objectives need to inform the land use strategy. So we need enough money. I want to know if there's enough money.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Yep. Thank you. If you'd like to take your seat, and can I pass that one over through you, General Manager? Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Kathy. I'll have to take the first two on notice. I don't have those dates and the timing, etc. With regards to the third, it was disappointing that we had a reduction in the funding available. We've modified the scope accordingly for that process. And from the original 900,000 that was given to us, we have plenty for the land use and development strategy that is just kicking off now. We had four strong submissions from very competent consultants to assist us with that, and staff are really excited that process is kicking off, because this is the work that ideally should have been done at the start of this whole LPS process.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, Dr. Smith, would you like to ask yours?
Thank you. Through you, Acting Mayor.
Thank you.
A question for the General Manager, and it relates to item number 11-00922. I note that on August the 30th, you had a briefing on the Edgar Dam Strengthening Project, which is particularly important because the dam was built 50 years ago on a fault line. The recent publicity about the future of both the Edgar and Scott's Peak dams, reported in the Huon News on September 21st and on local radio, is concerning to the Huon Valley community, especially in view of the Scott's Peak Dam on the Huon River and the potential for flooding. I understand that the estimated cost of maintaining or deconstructing both the Scotts Peak Dam and the Edgar Dam is $65 million, which would be paid for by the state government over the next 10 years. So my question is, will the new councillors be given a full briefing as soon as possible on the situation, and will any presentation to a council workshop be made available to the Huon Valley community?
Thank you. If you'd like to take a seat, and you can stand there, you're right. Through you, to you, General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Smith. In response to briefings for councillors coming in, of course, the Hydro Tas are very committed to engagement on this process, and see that sharing this information is important for the community to remove that speculation. There's a few points here, I guess, in covering that off, and that's the likelihood of a major earthquake occurring in the area and impacting the Edgar Dam is calculated to be extremely remote. A 1 in 10,000 chance of it happening in any given year, so not at any moment. There's a comprehensive Huon River flood evacuation plan in place to address this risk in the extremely unlikely event it occurs. Hydro Tas provides advice on dam failure risks to inform the plan and emergency preparedness for the Huon Valley community. The plan describes a process and provides supporting information for the evacuation of the population at risk due to natural floods in the Huon River, as well as dam failure. The plan has been tested by the Huon Valley Emergency Management Committee. The committee is made up of the SES, Tas Police, Tas Fire Service, Tas Water, Tas Networks, the Bureau of Meteorology, the Tasmanian Health Service, Parks and Wildlife, and the Kingborough Council. And the Emergency Management Committee makes recommendations to Council regarding the preparation and review of the Huon Valley Emergency Management Plan and Special Emergency Management Plans. The committee also is involved in coordinating policy and arrangements and strategies for emergency management in the Huon Valley. It reviews the management of emergencies and works to improve emergency management arrangements. Hydro has been in close consultation with Council regarding the upgrading works to Edgar Dam to further strengthen the dam and significantly reduce the likelihood of a failure. The most effective and quickest way to reduce the risk is to a level considered tolerable under the dam safety guidelines is for Hydro Tasmania to complete the dam safety strengthening. Hydro Tas is undertaking community engagement on the Edgar Dam strengthening project, and you can find more information on their website. As has been acknowledged, there's a community briefing at the Huon Valley Hub in Huonville between 4 and 6 tomorrow. So there's a great opportunity, and again, Hydro Tas are very committed to keeping the community informed about this project.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Thomas, did you have yep, would you like to come forward? Thank you.
Malcolm Thomas, Deep Bay. Will Council write to the Minister for Local Government and the TPC requesting that it be allowed to withdraw its application for the Landscape Conservation Zone, citing the very poor process of public consultation and the lack of any independent science reports, socio-economic reports, and no obvious consultation with state government land managers and landowners, as the proposal is at odds with federal and state government policies on fuel reduction, fire preparedness and wood encouragement programs, to name a few. The implementation of such a zoning would bring pressure on other councils to adopt the zoning, therefore forcing them into a realm which they do not have staff and budgets, and it is not on their strategic radar. Council.
Can I just, it's in our agenda. There's an addendum. Yeah. Yeah. In there tonight, would you be happy to, do you want?
Well, this might support it.
Yeah, but, yeah, it might. But also we can't talk, because we haven't voted. Yeah, we can't discuss it. So, yeah.
Can you take my question into account when you're discussing it?
But you haven't got to your question.
Well, I have. I have. I've said.
Yeah.
I've said. Will council write to state
Yep.
government?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, do you?
Well, that's basically my question anyhow.
Yeah,
So
all right.
there was a little bit
Yep,
more to
yep.
conclude, but I'm happy to leave that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, thank you, and you will find it in it coming up soon.
Thank you,
All right.
Madam
Thank you.
Acting Mayor.
No worries. Yes, Mr. Jessup.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. The LP, and I do acknowledge that you will be voting on it, so I'll try to make it slightly different. The LPS has caused significant engagement with the community, which is great, but it's also caused some significant distress. And even tonight there's a protest, which we might have heard the good people of the Huon raising their voice, and there's about 100 people out there at the moment. My concern, I suppose, is around, again, process. And there's two parts of that. One is that the EOA report, which, thank you for adding that to the 35F report, because we can now see the logic in clear day of how you've thought the process through. We've had some preliminary advice that suggests that the decision to make rural resource to rural not like for like is an error. Secondly, we're concerned that the high-level review of the TPC decisions by the consultants and then ignoring about 6 of them and only focusing on 1, again shows a level of concern in the process. So I'm going to get there. And thirdly, the fact that an environmental consultant doesn't concur with the TPC, who is the actual lawmaker. So the first question is, what financial contingencies has the council set aside for potential legal actions that will result from sending this flawed 35F report to the TPC, which will then trigger a range of individual landholders having to expend significant funds? If your logic is found to be legally at risk, what liability have you considered you may be up for in that sense? And the second part is, given that the land use strategy has been put out and 4 good consultant reports have been received, would it be best to hold off this decision until the new council can actually look at that process as well? Because the new councillors may have different views on what a good consultant is versus other people's.
Well, yeah, okay. I won't answer that. I'll pass that. To the general manager, and you can, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jessup. I'm going to go out there and say we haven't got a financial contingency for what you're proposing, and the other matters going to be considered in the paper around your second question. So I think we can.
Thank you. Okay, another question? Yes, Mr. Grant at the back. And then Amy, I think it is.
Peter Graham from Port Huon.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Acting Mayor. My questions regarding the questions that I put by email, just regarding the first question is in relation to the council's support for Taswater dumping effluent at Shipwrights Point. In the response, council has stated that council provided consent as the landowner for Shipwrights Point.
Yep.
The question is, under what grounds does the Huon Valley Council claim to own Shipwrights Point? The Port Huon Progress Association and the Huon Yacht Club and the council are in possession of a trust document stating that Shipwrights Point was purchased by the Port Huon community and is held in trust by the council for the use of the community. That is not ownership.
Thank you. I'll pass that over to the General Manager.
I'll pass that on to our Acting Director.
Thank you for your question. I'll have to take that on notice. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And question number 2 is...
Wait a minute.
Sorry?
One question at a time, because we have got a lot.
Oh, okay.
It's all related to that, is it? All right.
Yes, it's a second question.
Yep.
Just regarding why council have not been informing the community when raw sewage is dumped in the Commandy River. The response to the question I put stated that the Commandy River is not used for recreational purposes. This is not correct. It is used for kayaking and fishing regularly. So I restate my original question in that regard as to why council has not been informing the public when raw sewage is dumped in the Commandy River.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is that I'm through Lockie or...
Yeah.
I think we'll just take that one on notice.
Yeah. Can we get back to you on that one? Thank you. Okay, I had Christy. Yep. And then Amy.
Christy Lewis, Port Hewen.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Chair and Acting Mayor. So thank you for the answers to my question, and thank you for engaging with TasWater on our behalf. But I feel my question was not really answered, because my question asked what will the council do rather than what it has been doing, now that it's heard how worried the community is about TasWater's plans to dump treated and untreated sewage into the water off Shipwrights Point, where people swim, fish and sail, and where there are vulnerable species like the grayling shark. TasWater has told us that they consulted, however, these meetings with community groups happened before the environmental impact statement was released on their website, so this is not a proper consultation. They are also saying they will upgrade the treatment plant, but they have not actually committed to a timeframe or funding, and the funding would be available at 2026 at the earliest. Unsurprisingly, the community is very concerned. There was an article in the Hewen News today. So my question is, will the council ask TasWater to reassess the project now that there is more information available? And if not, what will the Hewen Valley Council do to reflect the community concerns rather than just gathering information? Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, can I pass that one through to you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ms Lewis. We're constantly working back that information into TasWater and looking for them to understand the concerns. And I think, out of continuing to take this information back through TasWater, they've now agreed to a second meeting, which I understand they've communicated with you today. That's going to happen. We've also talked to them about assessing that preferred option, and I guess we don't have any control over obviously what they do other than expressing your concerns back through, which is what we've been looking to do. I will say that in every instance they've been very prompt in coming back to us and giving us information to share with those people asking the questions, and as I understand, they committed to coming back to you and the Progress Association by the 30th, and they've come back today and then committed to a meeting to follow up with any follow-up questions. We obviously don't have any authority over them. We are obviously a shareholder and a minority one at that. Ultimately the EPA have given this a tick. So that's their authority that they're having to manage the concerns with, and we're really conscious of the community's concerns. We're doing our best to share that with them and make sure that their consideration is being taken into account as they make their way through this process. The conversations I'm having is that they're still in design stage, so they're still working through this, and ultimately, talking as we go through these design processes may enable them to make some refinements. I've talked to them about concerns from the community around the roads, and what might be happening with traffic and what might happen to businesses locally. They've assured me that they're not looking to bypass the works. They're actually creating a single lane to navigate through, which again, that's what their plan is, and I guess I can only take their word at this stage as to what they're doing. So, you know, with everything that the community is sharing, they're looking to respond, and I understand they're bringing, you know, a team down next week to talk to the concerns that have been raised in the last session and follow up any questions that have been provided or come out of the information that they've provided. So, look, we're certainly aware of your concerns and the community's concerns, and we're sharing that. And look, I think Taswater have been very responsive. They certainly haven't delayed coming back to me, and as I understand, they've met your commitments, well, the commitment to you about coming back by the 30th. So.
Thank you. Okay. Actually, it was Amy first, and then you next. Amy.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. Amy Robertson, Port Huon. Small procedural question. For item 10 tonight, you've got 2 councillors have declared potential conflict of interest. I'm not clear on the management or consequence of that, and will that be has that been decided, or will that be decided when you get to the item?
Can I pass that through to your good self? Thank you.
Yes, thanks. We have managed the process to avoid the conflicts, so that will become apparent as we make our way through it.
Thank you. Now, the lady at the back was next.
Thank you, councillors and Deputy Mayor. Jessica Hoverman.
Oh, I couldn't see you with the
Port
mask.
Huon,
Sorry, Jessica.
No, that's fine. My question is also around the Taswater works down in Port Huon and Geeveston. And I note that some of the response to Christie's question around the planning has been answered. I guess my concern at this point in question is to what extent is council going to ensure that the planning that is being considered at the moment, they're just talking about one route, also incorporates what we know is going to be quite significant population growth in Geeveston and in Port Huon and surrounds. At the moment, the planning that they're talking about and the numbers that they're talking about bears no resemblance to the population growth we're expecting. What are you doing as councillors to ensure they are informed and that the product that they produce, whether it's the pipe or a new plant, accommodates that?
Thanks for that question. I'll pass that on to the General Manager.
Yeah, I've had lots of discussions with Taswater about some of these questions coming through, and I understand that there is something coming back through to the community or the public meeting again next week with the responses. But the conversation I've had with them is that while the plant and what it's producing is at, you know, roughly the licence level, it's not considered to be at capacity. And I understand from the conversations that it's about half of its capacity at the moment. So they, I believe, are addressing that in the feedback to the community meeting of the 19th September. So there should be some further information in there that can help clarify that.
That's 25 minutes, Mayor.
Okay, so, sorry, Cathy, do we have any other first questions? One more at the back? Yeah, I'll take yours, sir, and that'll be the end of question time.
My name's Dennis Walker, 5th generation farm from Brayside Road. We've got my concern is about the rezoning. Yeah. We have a 100-acre property up Chitties Road for sale. With the rezoning and everything, we've had two people that were interested in buying it have pulled out because concerns that if they buy the property, they will not be able to build a house on it. it's been fifth generation agricultural land for, say, 150-something years.
Yep.
Will the council, my question is, will the council, if this rezoning is approved, will the council be giving exemptions to land on certain things? Because my father and his brother that are retiring, and then I'm taking over the property, and part of taking over the property is buying out, selling that land to buy out the rest of it. But it's no good, nobody wants to buy it if they're going to buy 100 acres and run it as a going on concern if they can't put a house and a shed and whatever they want to do on it.
All right.
So that's my question.
Thank you very much for that. I will. Could we take? Well, we're going to talk about it. Yeah. Are you happy to wait to after we've had a look at the agenda number, and then I will. Otherwise, we'll answer it for you. Okay, so that's the end of public question time. 8.2, no, Neil? Okay, agenda number 9014/22, petition regarding breaches of code of conduct. Okay. The papers are all mucked up. Do I have a councillor? Is that the one that, 6? Yep.
Is there no conflict of interest in those?
The recommendation is the report on the petitions regarding breaches of the code of conduct be by Acting Mayor Doyle and Councillor Newell be received and noted, if that's all we're doing. Is that correct? Yep. So do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Clark. And a seconder? Councillor Prince. You don't wish to speak to that?
No,
Yep.
no, Mayor.
Is there any councillor to speak against the motion? Any questions? As there's no councillor to speak against the motion, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Yep, thank you. Where has it gone? My papers are all over the 7. Yeah, and then it went over the page. Yeah, it wasn't underneath the thing, it was on the other page. Okay, so we had A or B. Sorry, guys, 9014/22A. Option A, take action on the petition. Having considered the petitions regarding breaches of the Code of Conduct by Acting Mayor Doyle and Councillor Newell, the Council acknowledges the decision of the Code of Conduct panel made on the 3rd of June 2022 in regards to a complaint made by Mr Sins and Mr Miller against councillors then Mayor Enders, Deputy Mayor, now Acting Mayor Doyle, Newell and Campbell. Census Acting Mayor Doyle and Councillor Newell for their role in the terminally flawed recruitment process of the General Manager Jason Brown, which has brought the council into disrepute and caused widespread distrust of the council.
Mayor, I'm not sure that you can vote on those options. That's a
That's
conflict
why
of interest.
That's why.
So I think we need to hold this item over to the next meeting. there's not a quorum, so...
That's why I thought we
if
were
I can just stop
receiving
you
a
there
noting.
before we go to a vote.
Yeah.
I think we've got 2 declarations of interest here.
Yep. That's
yeah.
why I received a
Okay,
noting.
so
Yep.
we'll hold that matter over till the next meeting.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, 9015/22. Petition regarding the council providing a public statement for the general manager's recruitment process. I refer the councillors to the, make sure I get it right here. All right. Oh, I've got 16. Yep, we've got that. Yep. To the recommendations. There, yes, councillor.
Sorry, apologies, Mayor. You've lost me a little bit. What are we looking at the moment, sorry?
9015/22.
And is that the report of the petition regarding the public statement accepting responsibility for flawed recruitment process?
What did I read out?
No, is that, is that?
Yeah,
okay,
petition
sorry.
regarding the council's providing a public statement for the general manager's recruitment process.
Yeah,
Yep.
cheers. Thanks for the clarification.
Yep,
Mayor.
that's fine. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Yep.
I'd like to move the recommendation B, option B.
Do you like to read that out, please, councillor?
Having considered the petition regarding the Huon Valley Council providing a public statement accepting responsibility for the flawed recruitment process for the General Manager in 2021 and breaches of the Code of Conduct and apologising to the Huon Valley community, the Council resolves to take no action on the petition.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
You have a recommendation at the top that we have to move first, I think, to receive and note.
You have to receive and note the report first, and then you can vote on A or B.
Okay. Do I have someone to receive the recommendation, and then we can go to that councillor? Okay. Yes, do I have a... yes, councillor Lovell, and a seconder, councillor O'May. And then we go now? Yep. Oh, do we have to vote on that?
Yep.
Yep, all those in... I'll go through the process. Do you want to speak on that? No? Okay. Is there a councillor to move against the motion? Is there any questions?
No, Mayor.
As there is no councillor to speak the motion, I put those in favour. Please raise your hand on the recommendation. That's all out in favour. Raise your hand. You're not raising your hand? Thank you. Okay, so then we at 9015/22A or B, you would like to move.
Thank you, Mayor. I jumped the gun, yes.
Yes,
I would like
okay.
to move option B. Thank you.
Okay, so do I have a seconder for that, please? Okay, councillor O'May, do you wish to speak on that, councillor? No? Do I have any councillor to speak against the motion? Are there any questions? As there's no councillor to speak against the motion, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Okay. Thank you. Okay, 9.016/22, petition regarding public attendance at council workshops. I refer councillors to the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Prince? Seconder? Seconder? Councillor Lovell? Do you wish to speak to that, councillor? Yes, you do.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Acting Mayor. Yeah, I think point B, actually in the recommendation, really well summarises that some, well, for my view, some of the public meetings probably aren't, some of the workshops wouldn't be appropriate for the public because they deal with things like, might be someone coming down to give a presentation about a business idea or something like that. However, I do like the idea that where possible, inviting people into these meetings and identifying ahead of time that they could be for public attendance. I think that's a really sort of good way to do it. So there are some public meetings we certainly attend that could easily be made available to the public. And I know some of the presentations we do get through our workshops are then, for example, on like what the youth program is doing, are then put onto things like Facebook and YouTube. So they are made publicly in that sense. But I think, yeah, any more we can sort of incorporate publicly without risking anyone's sort of private business, I think that'd be really good. So yeah, I fully support the recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a councillor speak against the motion? No? Any questions on that? You want to close? No? As there's no councillor speak against the motion, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. And the motion is carried. Okay, number 10, Planning Authority reports. The Mayor will advise the Council is acting as a planning authority as at? In accordance with the provisions of Part 2, Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulations 2015, the Council will now act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993. In accordance with Regulation 25, the Council will act as a planning authority in respect of those matters appearing under item 17 of this agenda. Is that right? Yep. Inclusive of any supplementary items. Okay.
Through your acting Mayor, can I introduce this?
Yes, you
this
can.
one?
Yes.
And familiarise councillors with the addendum?
Yep.
Thank you. So yeah, I thought it's important to introduce this one and to make sure the public are aware of what the addendum covers as well before we make a vote tonight. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge there is significant community concern, we've heard it tonight, with the LPS process, the assessment methodology adopted by Council, and ultimately the Section 35F report that councils are asked to vote on here tonight. Councils and staff hear and understand these concerns. We agree with the public that the state planning provisions, the new zones we've been asked to or directed to adopt, do not protect the various land uses that our residents enjoy in the valley. We have publicly commented as Council that the statutory process is inadequate, and Council has submitted our issues to the State Planning Office as part of the State Planning Provisions Review. Council could certainly have managed this 3-year process far better. The lessons for staff, current and future councillors, are chiefly that we need to increase our appreciation of and funding for strategic land use planning and to significantly improve community consultation. To the planning staff who have participated in this process, I would like to say what an excellent job they have done with minimal resources to meet Council's statutory obligations and to develop objective assessment methodologies that not everyone was ever going to agree with, but that have ensured integrity throughout the process. Prior to the setting of the FY23 budget, staff presented a risk assessment to councillors in anticipation of the TPS going live in the Huon Valley. This analysis secured $900,000 in funding for strategic planning, ending a multi-year strategy drought and leading to the land use and development strategy, which is just now commencing. Funding strategic land use planning demonstrates councillors have listened to the community, and the land use and development strategy directly responds to public questions over the last few months, as well as specific motions made for a number of years, but most recently in the FY21 annual general meeting, which called for strategic land use planning. So we have heard and we have responded, and we agree. What councillors are considering tonight is an objective assessment made by qualified persons as to whether representations justify an amendment to the draft LPS, i.e. a change in zones for those titles. We know our appreciation of risks and assessment is different from some members of the community, but difference and compromise is inherent in land use planning. So, and this is the important bit for councillors, should councillors vote to approve the Section 35 report, the TPC will be the final arbiter, and they have a far broader scope than council to consider representations. If the process proceeds, council's strategic land use planning project will continue and result in specific area plans and or zone and code changes after the LPS is adopted. So strategic planning after the LPS goes through. Should councillors vote to defer or reject the report tonight, alternative motions have been provided in the addendum to ensure statutory compliance. In the event the report is rejected and the draft LPS withdrawn, the draft LPS withdrawal accepted by the TPC, our new council will have a chance to build on the current public interest and deliver the land use and development strategy and ultimately submit a revised LPS informed by community participation. Thank you for listening. And just remember, when we are now considering the report, this is an addendum to the report. So as you're voting, refer to, alternative, the alternative motions.
Okay. All right.
Through you, Mayor, because I'm sure for the sake of transparency in the public, could you explain how the addendum works around my conflict of interest and Councillor O'May's conflict of interest? Thank
yes, we will. Thank you.
Sure. So we'll be considering the balance. So this modification to the original recommendations in the report, the ones in the addendum, split out so that as a council together, you consider the balance of representations, and then each of you, Councillor O'May and Councillor Prince, will step out individually while the balance of councillors and a quorum is maintained to vote on yours as individuals.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. I don't think I've read anything out yet. I haven't actually done the beginning. Yep. Agenda number 10.010/22. And I'll read out the addendum, don't I? Yes, that's correct, the addendum. Is that what I read now? The addendum, yeah. Addendum to report under Section 35F of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 on representations received by the Planning Authority following exhibition of the draft Huon Valley Local Provisions Schedule LPS HUO TPS. So, I refer the councillors to the addendum. So, do I have a councillor? Is that what you wanted to do, councillor? Yeah? Councillor, yes?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'd like to move a recommendation of option 3 be accepted. Do I need to read that through?
Can I do that? I've got a little red thing in here that if I can read that out.
Yep.
That's correct, isn't it?
Fine. Thank
Yep.
you.
Option 3, should decision 3, section 351, application to the Commissioner be supported, pursuant to section 351(1) of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, the Planning Authority requests to withdraw the draft Huon Valley Local Provisions Schedule, LPS HUO TPS, because that is a word that was missed out. We have to request to withdraw. Yep. So I just wanted to highlight that part in part A. All right. So you'd like to move option 3. Do I have a seconder for option? Yes. That's okay. Yep. Okay. So that's Councillor O'May. Councillor Clark, would you like to speak on that?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I would like to speak on it, most definitely. The decision that's before us tonight is the most difficult one, knowing the work that the Director of Infrastructure and Planning, Lachlan, and his staff have put countless hours into this over the past 6 months or so, and they've been under extreme pressure with the guidelines that were provided to them. So I want to thank them for the work that they've done in that. Now, that being said, it's apparent that there have been many inconsistencies in the judgment of many of the submissions in the 755-page section of the 35F report. Some have been very favourable and others were rejected, leaving hundreds of landowners with the prospect of spending more money on professional planners and taking their submissions to the TPC for further consideration. So we do have an option to postpone the decision until the new council is elected, but that would not change the 35F report, only delay it. If the council rejects the 35F report tonight, as I understand it, that will cease the process of the LPS, and council will have the opportunity to start again with the mapping of the zones in the valley. This, of course, will come at a cost, as we've discussed, but the upside of that is the new councillors will have the opportunity, as well as the community, to be brought along with the process and understand the guidelines and learn from any mistakes that were made. And hopefully we'll have a better outcome. As elected members, we do take our role seriously. We've listened to the community, we've read the hundreds of submissions, and we'll be making an informed decision tonight in this report. One question I have before I finish, though, with the Director, could you please let everybody know if this report is rejected here tonight, does that mean all the zonings will revert back to where they were under the interim planning scheme?
That's correct, and I will make just a clarification, and the point that Sally read out before, the modification to the motion, to the recommendation. It's not a unilateral decision as the Planning Authority. We can't just pull out of this. We are making a request to the Tasmanian Planning Commission because we have been directed to prepare an LPS. So hence the risk that was set out in the addendum paper, that it is at their discretion whether they accept that request, and they can then take it on themselves if they choose to accept it, or they can accept that we go back to the drawing board. In the meantime, we will stay on the interim planning scheme.
Thank you. Thank you, Acting.
Okay, do any other councillor? Yes, Councillor O'May.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few things to say on this matter. I agree entirely with Councillor Clark, apart from one matter. I have not read all of these submissions. As to be expected to read all of these submissions and give a fair hearing to each and every one of these submissions in the period of time that we've been allotted, in my view, is impossible, and it's denying people natural justice, in my personal view. Residents of the Yuan Valley have bought blocks of land with good intent under the current planning scheme. They've had dreams, they've had wishes, and some of the proposals of the planning goes totally against the grain of how people have planned their future, not only in their dreams but their finances. I find that totally unacceptable. I'd also like to give my appreciation to our staff who have worked extremely hard, and they've been put between a rock and a hard place here. They've been given a charter, terms of reference, which in my personal view is unacceptable. They've been used, excuse my terminology, but as pawns in a planning scheme which is unacceptable to a lot of members of the community, and I'd like to plead with the Minister of the day. I know he is a compassionate person, as we've had dealings with DPAC after the bushfires. In our tenure of this council, or my tenure in this council over the last 4 years, it hasn't been an easy run. We've had devastating bushfires that have left marked effects on not only the landscape but members of the public. We've had floods, 2 of which in the last couple of months. On top of that, we've had COVID, which has left a lot of businesses and people financially either struggling, ruined, or in a situation where they're very uncomfortable and still trying to catch up. To turn around and put an impost, in my view, as stringent as some of these controls appear to be, at this particular time, I feel is totally inappropriate. For me personally, and from my deliberations with a lot of residents and ratepayers in this valley, it is their personal view as well. One, they don't have a full understanding, a lot of people, and they haven't had time to be able to digest the implications of some of this planning scheme. So all I can say is I plead with you, Minister, on behalf of the residents of this valley and this council and our staff, that we revisit this thing. I totally agree with Councillor Clark, except for the point that you have read these, because I haven't, and I'm not going to confess to, and I certainly have not been able to digest and give each application due process. It is physically impossible.
All right.
So I say to you, Mayor, that the option that Councillor Clark has chosen is the only one, in my view, that this council should follow, as in respect to our community and our residents and our council staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any? Yes, Councillor Lovell.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to Lockie for the summary at the start. That does sum up a lot of what's been going on. And I do say thank you as well to the staff that are here and the staff before that worked on this. It's been a long road with minimal resources. My concern, probably my biggest concern, is that in the Huon Valley, the landscape conservation zone was applied differently to what other councils were. And so I guess that was one of my biggest concerns, that if in this kind of process, other councils were able to put forward how they had applied it and the TPC ticked them off on that, how dangerous is that there's that much wiggle room that in the Huon Valley it's been applied completely different. And that's not saying we've done it wrong or right, that's saying how does a system allow for that kind of wiggle room. So also wanted to say thank you to some of the people who had called and emailed very respectfully. These weren't people out with pitchforks. They were people who called and were saying, can you help, please help. This is our land. I don't believe in council taking more and more rights off landowners. I think we have sufficient. I would like it to go back to the drawing board, and this to me seems the right way round. The other options just aren't even on my radar. So yeah, thank you.
No problems. Yes, Councillor Neil.
Just to reiterate what the others are saying virtually, I mean, what sort of country are we becoming when we are allowing people to tell us what we can do with our own land, or land that our fathers and grandfathers have bought? I mean, we need to send this back in really strong terms that we're not interested. I don't mind if someone wants to donate a bit of land, lock it up. We've got a lot of native forests locked up. We've got a lot of conservation going on. There's no way known someone with a generational farm or someone that's bought 20 acres should have to give the rights up to a certain amount of it. So I'd just like this to go back with a stern, you know, we're not taking this. And as a Huon Valley and as a collective people, we won't accept this
Thank you.
thumb in the back of the head stuff.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Newell. Yes, Councillor Prince?
Through you, Acting Mayor, and thank you. Having looked through the options, I believe option 1 essentially will lead us in 90 days, or a new council in 90 days, to an option 2 or 3. And having thought about that, and option 2 doesn't seem satisfactory in my mind for my way of thinking. Therefore, as motioned by Councillor Clark, option 3 appears to be the only rational way forward. The idea of giving the newly elected councillors the opportunity to demonstrate their hopefully competent leadership and transparency to take forward the people of the Huon on this journey again, with staff in a better position to be able to achieve to the standard they'd like to, with the resources that they would see as adequate to do it, I believe is probably the most important thing we could do. So I'd be quite happy to put this through as one of the last things I'll do as a councillor. I support it.
Thank you. Okay, I'd just like to say that I did go through this. Very little sleep. And after we spoke about what we could do with this, it became quite evident that it was with a heavy heart that I could not vote to put that in after doing that. Okay, so Councillor Clark, have you got any closing?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, look, I'd just like to thank, the same as Joanne, Councillor Lovell did, that everybody that contacted me was very respectful, and we understood, and I must admit, I have had my hand up for 6 months to stop this process, and I'm so glad that we have got to this point now, and I would like to wish all the new councillors, when they do take these seats, they're going to have a lot of reading and a lot of information to take in, but I wish you all good luck, and I'm sure you'll do a good job for anyone that gets elected from here tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. All right, so is there any other questions? Anyone speaking against? No? As there's no councillors to speak against the motion, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. And the motion is carried. I advise that the council is no longer acting as a planning authority as at 7:08. Thank you. 11.009/22. I refer the councillors to the recommendation. Does any before I do that, is there any councillors tabling their activities? Been reading? Is that what you're going to be putting on there? Okay. Do I have a councillor to move a motion that the general reports and minutes for the period of 1 to 31 August 2022 be received and noted? Councillor Newell and Councillor Lovell. Councillor Newell, do you wish to speak to that motion? No. Anyone against it? Yeah, I'll get to there. You can do that. Off you go now.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I just wanted to yet again thank the Youth Committee for inviting me along to their working group. I really appreciate that. I know they don't have to do that. And I'd also like to thank them. They have kindly requested that in a world where I'm no longer a councillor, if I'd like to attend. So once I am no longer a councillor, if the Huon Valley Council will have me as a volunteer, I'd be more than happy to volunteer. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Okay, is there, yes, Councillor O'May?
Yes, Mayor, Oh, sorry,
Yeah, I think you're a bit...
I'm in front of myself, sorry. The next one's what I want to talk about.
Yeah,
sorry.
okay. Okay.
Apologise.
Anybody else want to speak on any of that? No? Okay, so as there's no councillor speak against the motion, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. What have we got next? We've got...
Workshops.
Yep. Okay, 12, council workshops. Do you want to talk to those, please, General Manager?
Thanks, Acting Mayor. Excuse me. So we on the 24th of August had the UTAS stakeholder liaison for the UTAS Southern Transformation providing a presentation. We had waste initiatives, so we had the Environmental Services Manager provide a presentation regarding the current state of play and some future initiatives being investigated and trialled. We had yourself and myself present back to councillors our shared learnings from the recent ALGA conference attended in Canberra. On the 7th of September we had the draft annual report discussed, and this will continue to be prepared and presented to the October council meeting for adoption. We had a briefing from Taswater, so Taswater representatives attended to update councillors on the Port Huon wastewater outflow project. And finally we had the councillor reflection, so the Director of Governance and Strategy and Sustainable Development led a discussion with councillors on items of council reflection for consideration and inclusion in the induction and training program for the new councillors coming up in November and December.
Thank you. Okay, 13, questions, councillor questions. There was no questions taken on notice. Do I have any questions without notice? Yes, Councillor Lovell.
So I just had a call that was sort of to you, but I took it earlier today for a question. Regarding the graffiti. So there was some vandalism out at the Judbury Hall, and I just had a resident today call and ask when is that going to be cleaned up. And I think it was it last week it happened, possibly? Yeah. And also the bus shelter. I think that's at the crossroads at Judbury there, the intersection. Through you, Mayor.
To you, yes? Yep, to the Director.
Yeah.
Yep.
Through you, thanks for the question, Councillor Lovell. I will need to look into it and get back to you, because we do, normally we have a specialist contractor with specialist chemicals to remove graffiti, and they're usually onto it ASAP, and they haven't been in this circumstance, and I'm not sure why, so I'll get back to you. And obviously we are trying to get rid of it as soon as possible.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor O'May.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Lovell must have been probably approached by some of the same people that approached me on the same subject. I want to elaborate on it either further. The graffiti's not only in the above-mentioned places, it's actually in the kids' park and inside the big hollow tree that's there. To describe some of the graffiti is absolutely vulgar. I've had reports of kids going back to their mothers and asking what some of the terminologies of the words were, which I'm not even going to repeat in this chambers, as they're vulgar and disgusting. So I think that for the good of the community, it's high time that something was done about that, about this problem, and done yesterday. I'm sorry about my urgency on this issue, but it really is important that we do move on this.
Thank you very much.
And also, I've got a couple of other questions too, Mayor, if I may be permitted.
Go for it.
One is in regards to the outfall at Port Huon and generally sewage. It was brought up by a question from the floor here tonight in regards to and taken on notice in regards to the discharge in the Commandy River. From my knowledge, memory and experience of growing up in that local area, staying at my uncle's place, this process has gone on for a long, long time. Moving it from one place to the other, in my view, is potentially just moving one problem to somewhere else. So, but this is probably going to take a minute to explain what I've got to say here, but I just want to try and, from this council, as I will not be on the next council, and I probably apologise to the people for that, and I should have brought it up in the announcements. I made an error, a gross error in my timing of my application, as I didn't have it in before midday. So I'm very embarrassed by that, and I apologise to my subcommittees, and I feel like I'm letting a few people down, and also humiliated myself, as I have endorsed people to put signs up and whatnot, to then find out that I wasn't within the time period. So I apologise to people for that. But anyway, back to the sewerage issue. There's very good science, and I've watched some docos coming out of the UK before the Industrial Revolution, where a lot of the sewerage was, most of the sewerage all went back to land, and they can tell this by looking at the carbon in the soil and how it was used. I'd just like to make a suggestion that if this council can carry forward, I know it's not going to happen overnight, but I just want to underline something here, what's going on at the moment with the world situation. And being a man of agriculture, most of our fertilisers are coming out of China or Russia. The prices have gone through the roof. And it is my view that it's not going to happen overnight, but we should be looking at other ways of utilising the solids from our sewerage, and how we can do that and how we can economically do it is obviously something as a matter of science. But I just want to put a prelude in there for a suggestion to be put generally in regards to sewage, not only the Commandy outlet, but all areas in the Huon Valley, that we start to look at some form of down the road utilisation of sewerage and putting it back in the land, as opposed to dumping it in the river or
Councillor
the ocean or wherever.
O'May,
So
you do realise though that that's Tas Water.
I understand that, but Tas Water was taken over by, it used to be council, and Tas Water is overseeing all the assets which used to belong to the council. So
Yes,
I'm just
correct.
putting it up as a suggestion.
Right,
Mayor,
okay,
that's all.
thank you. Yep.
So, and I just think that we should look at it down the line.
Yep,
So,
all right.
Anyway,
Okay, thank
and
you.
my other question was, I did have another question here. It's gone now. Got too wrapped up in that one.
Wait a minute. Is there anybody else got a question? We can come back to Councillor O'May. No? Okay. What can I prompt you with?
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Better.
no worries. That's just the main
Yep.
things I wanted to
All
talk
right.
about. Mayor,
Thank
was
you very much.
specifically the graffiti and
Yep.
the sewage situation.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor, notices of motion? No? Neil? All right. We'll move on. Thank you. We're up to 15.027/22, the Signet Caravan Park lease. I just got everybody to refer to the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Newell, seconder. Councillor Lovell, do you wish to speak to that motion? No, I concur with you. Thank you. Is there a councillor to speak against the motion? Are there any questions about? Yes, Councillor Lovell.
I just have a question, and I think it'll come up in another report later on about the Crown land leases. I don't know if it was in this one that it was specifically said that the Crown land leases are going up at the moment. how will that affect council across all our Crown land leases?
Can I pass that one back through to you?
Especially this one at the moment, because we're on this report.
Yeah, I can talk to the one specifically addressed here. I mean, as I understand, there's been COVID relief applied to a number of the leases that we do have with the Crown, and they're reverting back to, over the course of the next 12 months, to be the full lease cost. Look, I don't have the exact financial impact, but it is something we're conscious of, and also looking at our need for these leases. So we are doing a review as we make our way through that process of, you know, these type of considerations and other opportunities to reduce our holding that are unnecessary.
Just to clarify, so the lease is going back to pre-COVID. It's not then jumping up on top of.
That's my
pre-COVID
understanding.
prices.
Yeah, no, that's. Yeah, my understanding is that we had relief, and this is an example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Do you want to close, councillor? No? Okay. As there's no councillor speak against the motion, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. (16.013/22) Financial Report. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Clark. A seconder? Councillor Lovell. Councillor Clark, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just a couple of little things I did look at in the financial statements there. Obviously, you've mentioned there an update on the investments will be forthcoming at the end of this month. So will that come before the next council meeting? Through the director?
Through to the director?
Yes, thank you. So at the end of the September quarter, we'll be doing a measure up of all the financial results, all the variances, including the earnings on investments. So that will be coming up next month.
Thank you. And while I've got you there was one other question. Also, the accounts receivable were obviously consistent, it says here, with the previous year. They were a little bit over this year, but obviously that would be due to probably the rise in interest rates or the general rise in general living expenses. People are not paying as quickly, but it's not a huge difference. But yeah, those receivables.
No, I can just comment on that. At the end of June 30, which is when we did our the last full measure up, so it was a very consistent result with the previous year. And you might also remember that a few months ago we sought approval from council to engage with a collection agency, and in the last few weeks we've been putting that process into place, and that's returning some very good results thus far. So I'm confident that the level of outstandings will reduce.
Thank you. That's all, mate.
So is there a councillor to speak against the motion? Are there any other questions? All right. As there's no councillor to speak against the motion, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. Sorry, I'll do that again. As there's no councillor to speak against the motion, then I put the motion, and all those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. (16.014/22) Financial Reserves as at 30th of June 2022. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, Councillor Newell. A seconder? Councillor O'May. Councillor Newell, do you wish to speak to this?
No, I'm happy with the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there any councillors to speak against the motion? Any questions? No. As there's no councillor to speak against the motion, then I will put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. We right? Yeah. 18.001/22 Shipwrights Point jetty replacement. Do I have a councillor to move that motion? Yes. Councillor O'May, and a seconder? Councillor Lovell. Councillor O'May, would you like to speak to that motion?
Yes, Mayor, this is one of my major interests on council. We have a great working committee, and this proposal has been extensively looked at by our committee, and my personal view is it's the only way to go. All the jetties around the state and the country are moving in this direction. It's a very important location. The public used to have access to the big wharf down there for fishing and recreational facilities. That is not permissible anymore because it's in private hands and very industrialised and would be dangerous to do so. And it is in an area, in my view, that is going to be seeing some major progress in the future. There's moves, as we know, at Franklin and up the river with boating and kayaking and yachting and whatnot. So, and the structure that we've recommended is one that is going to last a considerable period of time. I think it was 70 years or somewhere around that lifespan, where a lot of our other structures that we've been involved in over quite some time have had timber, and the environment in the river, the Toledo worms, destroy them very quickly, and in the previous instance, the construction failed dismally as well. So I'd just like to thank the members of the Marine Facilities Committee in putting in a tireless effort and a lot of time outsourcing their own personal time in coming up and helping with this recommendation. Also the staff, Rebecca Bell and staff at council, done an amazing job here to help this come along. So, and Mast and the other contributors that we've had help us out. A big thank you. So, yeah, I just think it's a great proposal, and I'm looking forward to councillor support. That's all I can say.
No problems. Okay. And anyone else like to? Yes, Councillor Lovell.
I'd just like to say I've had quite a few residents saying to me that it's been greatly missed. While, you know, all of a sudden something's not there, and then you realise how actually used it was. So I really hope we can get over the line with our grant applications, and yeah, I look forward to seeing that go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've only just got one thing to say, that it will be all accessible, which is the number one thing of getting in and out of a boat. It's not easy, as people that are don't have in a wheelchair. I have a grandson in a wheelchair, and he's getting quite heavy to lift in and out of our boats. So this is a lot, very well done, and a lot of thought's gone into this. So thanks to Councillor O'May. Okay, so you want to close, or you're right?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't underline that that aspect of it, Mayor. It's for your grandson and even the elderly people. So something that's moving up and down with the tide is very important in this day and age, and also saves council further costs down the line where we've got to provide such a facility. So, but just the general concept of this whole thing is really good. So thoroughly recommended.
Okay. As there's no councillor to speak against the motion, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. Oh, it's that time again to advise that council is about to go into closed council. Thank you to those people who joined our gallery this evening and those of you who took the time to watch the meeting online this evening. The next meeting of our ordinary meeting of council is Monday, the 24th of October, not the Wednesday. It's the Monday. So, thank you very much for coming. Thank you. We must continue to record the meeting whilst moving to go into the closed session. Oh, Sandy's not there. Do you want me to? I've got to wait till I do this first.
Can't wait too long there.
No, he's got to wait.
Can we just have a recess while Sandy's not here?
Okay, all right. And recommendation 19.012/22 is that the meeting now be closed to the public at 7:32. Pursuant to Regulation 15 of the Meeting Procedures Regulation to discuss the following matters. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Lovell, seconder. Councillor O'May. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all. That's all present, and the motion is carried. In accordance with the Huon Valley auto recording of council meeting policy procedure of open session of the meeting ceased at. Yep. I adjourn the meeting for a short break at 7:30.